Okay. And we are live. Welcome everybody. Thank you all for attending. Yeah, I'm going to continue teaching the Dharma, and whatever that means to you, I'll do my best to get it explained so that you have a better clarity around it. The Dharma is, it's, if you understand the Dharma, you understand the Buddha. Yeah, and you understand the relationship of the kingdoms. Yeah, and what is that? Anybody got that one? Okay, anyway. The relationship of Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha has to do with the relationship of the Buddha. Yeah. So how does the Dharma manifest in life? It's a basis of law. Yeah. And so when the Buddha is expressing the law, it's not expressing a law that the Buddha says this is what you got to do. Expressing a law that's based on truth. Yeah. And that's a very difficult thing, because most everything that we deal with is through illusion and delusion and compromise and other people's belief system, and kind of puts you in a position of whether or not you believe yourself or you believe someone else or you believe what's been told. Yeah. So to have a clear mind and to have a direction, a path that you're moving on, is based on the Dharma. Yeah. And if it's not the Dharma, then you don't have a path. Yeah. You're being manipulated and you're being used, and it starts from the day that you take your first breath. Yeah. Your very first breath. Yeah. And the very first words you say, and how you hear them in the womb, and how they deal with people in their personality states while you're in the womb, you learn a lot while you're there. That's the beginning of your incarnation. So there's a lot that goes on, how we deal with emotions and contraction and reaction and substance. What is substance? What is important to the person that you're in the body of? They find that so important, everything they find so important, whatever it is. But, what about you? You don't have any relationship to anything in life, but now you're being forced to have all these emotions that are not yours. They're the person that you're in the body of. And they have intention, and they have strong intention, and that emotion has a course of thought form, which creates prejudice, bias, a sense of injustice. I'm being used. I'm being manipulated. I don't have my rights, and other people are taking advantage of me. And all these are inner things that we all have. And we want to express, but we don't express until we're angry, until we're upset, until something goes wrong. And then all this shit comes out. And it definitely affects the baby. So that's your first stage, And then you deal with, now you're out, now you can't talk. Yeah. You can't express yourself. You've got at least 2 years before you're able to somewhat express yourself, and until then, you're listening to cussing, lies, illusions, and yet you can hear. You can understand, even as a baby, when a person says hello, you want to say hello back. You form the words, you try, yeah? But we don't expect that of a baby. A baby's a baby, has no soul, There's no life there yet. There's just fun, like a puppy, yeah. But the baby has all these things going on in themselves, and they're dealing with what's going on in their environment, and they have to cope with that. And by the time they're 2 years old, they've had so many things programmed to them, because people say shit when they're not around other people, and they say it in front of kids, and the little kids, like, as though they're not there, as though they don't have any conscious development going on at that time, 2 years old, 1 year old, 6 months old, 2 months old, gestation period, zygote, the whole thing is consciousness. It's a development of consciousness, but we don't see it that way. We don't see it that way. I do see it that way. And I govern this world seeing it that way. And it doesn't matter to me how you see it. It doesn't matter to me how ignorant you may be, or how you treat each other, or how you get treated. That part really doesn't bother me. It doesn't matter to me. It is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha is what matters to me. Yeah? Because all that shit happens. It happens. I am not at fault of any of it. Yeah? And nor is anybody else, because you're ignorant. You have no consciousness because you have no enlightenment. Your mom was not enlightened. Your father was not enlightened. Where would you get enlightenment? You don't know a monastery. You haven't walked into a monastery, made any commitment of any kind to meditate and start studying any of that. You know, that's not even an opportunity. You know, so where are you going to get enlightenment? You know, all you're going to get is, you know, education. You know, because you're stupid. You're ignorant. You know, you don't know how to say vowels yet. You don't know how to count yet. You don't know how to, describe something with enunciation and pronunciation and nouns and all these things that drives you crazy when they say it. Oh, that's a noun. Yeah. Oh, great, that's a verb. Oh, what? Shit, wait. Let's not go there. You know? Yeah, because it's insanity. It just implies that you're really so stupid we have to make up a thing called a vowel. We have to make up a thing called a verb. You know, because you're so stupid. You're totally ignorant. You're beyond ignorant. You know? We got to pound it into you with things we have to make up in order to make sense out of the things we're trying to explain. Because we're so stupid in the process of it. And we do the same in everything. Yeah? Walk into history. You know, oh yeah, Columbus sailed the ocean blue and he discovered America. Really? No. And we're in 2000, in almost 2022, you know? And we still think, and want to hold on to, even though everybody knows Columbus is not Spanish. He did not discover America. He didn't come to America. He went to Cuba. All of Cuba is named after towns where he came from. It takes about an hour and a half to get all this information, you know, and change your entire perspective of that man called Columbus, you know, which is a complete delusionary propaganda. Propaganda from Spain, from people, from Americans who are stupid, from writers in history who didn't look anything up. You know, had no way of really looking it up, you know. So after a while, you know, since we're all told, we go, now step out of history, okay? Now we're going to go into, you know, mathematics, you know. Well, at what point did they explain the pyramid? How did we get the latitude, longitude, and the way in which all that comes about? You know, where did that science come from? Who measured the Earth and got it so accurate before we got satellites? How's that possible? I mean, according to us, Columbus only discovered America in 1492. And yet, how is there maps of the whole world, including the Arctic, before it became snowed over and frozen? How is there maps like that? And they're there. Yeah? But every school we walk into has none of this information. Yeah? Whatever subject you're taking, it is not true. It's not true. So why is it important to have a Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha? Why is it important? Because you're stupid. Stupid. And you're not stupid because you're just running around, you know, having a little tiny brain and dysfunctioning, and everybody else is a genius. You know, doctors are geniuses, lawyers are geniuses, all these big people with big jobs are geniuses. Everybody else is really dumb. You know, but that's not true. Yeah? Our thing is that we are not given the truth. And when you're not given the truth, how hard is it to figure out the truth in a single life on any given subject? Yeah? You can spend your entire life coming up with, oh my God, Columbus did not discover America, and the American Indians are in a different scenario than we had understood, and that Cuba is different than what we understood. All this kind of collapses and all this kind of comes together. New information, yeah? Which allows you to study, allows you a truth, yeah? Because after a while, it starts making sense. It's all corruption. It's all manipulation. It's all just corruption, yeah? Kings corrupt other people. They lie. They lie to other kings in order to get something to happen. It happens all the time, yeah? And, you know, everything that we have through our history, you know, is based on cover-up. You know, the King of England and all the king and everything, they cover up everything. Everything. They won't tell you the truth. You know, nothing goes on inside there that could be told about. Nothing. No one tells you the truth that happens inside very important scenarios. Like a king who rules a whole country and holds, you know, laws and order over that entire country, owns the land and other lands throughout other countries, yeah, simply because the king says so. Yeah. Well, you've completely annihilated what would have been the truth. Yeah, because that's all based on a lie. That's all based on corruption. It's all based on stealing. All the diamonds from India, the crown of Shiva, and put it on the crown of the queen. I mean, my God, that's a terrible thing. You know, when you know the truth, you shouldn't move forward with the lie that creates corruption that imperils humanity. Because we all have bad karma if we follow bad karma. Yeah, truth, consciousness, a lifting of ignorance, a veil of ignorance, gives us a strength in the heart to go, oh, hey, queen, your crown has a diamond in it that goes to the crown of Shiva in India, and you know you stole it. You know you stole it. It's in your records. We know this. You took it. You put it in your crown. Okay, put it back. Put it back. And that's a good, not just a good karmic act, yeah? But it alleviates enormous amount of imperil put into a holy event. When they put that stone into Shiva, when they put all the gold in those temples, when they move all those energies of prayers into things, they never share it because there's greed and corruption surrounding it. So imagine you've got more money than you could ever shake a stick at, and it's in India. Sitting in temples that'll never get opened up, and the gold will never come out, and no one will ever use it, and everybody's going to walk around poor. And the country of India does not inherit the $5 trillion it has sitting, just sitting, because of stupidity. Blatant stupidity. Something that happened 900 years ago, carried on constantly by people giving gold, Rajas giving gold, rich people giving gold, offerings to Shiva, offerings to all these different gods and goddesses, you know. Where's that going to happen? What's that going to do? It's just going to go into the temple and sit there. And the country will run dry into poverty. Yeah? No infrastructure will be built. No president would be created. No government would be established. No social systems would be established. No thought of helping the poor and establishing anything. You know? Just simply because the main energy, you know, the focus of money went into that process. And it just sits there. And without us having discernment and discrimination, looking at the whole of humanity, just like all the people in India, yeah? They're vegetarians, most of them, yeah? Most are vegetarians. And most they're vegetarian because they believe that the cow is a sacred animal that came with Shiva and God, yeah? And that it blesses the earth in its relationship to Govinda. And in the place where Govinda comes from, all there is cows and a sea of milk. Sea of milk, yeah? Well, you know, that's an interesting theory, interesting thought, but wouldn't we rather be living in the truth? Yeah? Here we are, in the world. God gave us animals. God gave us animals because we live within the kingdoms. And there are predators that you steal from, you corrupt, and you take other things. But if you follow the law of nature, yeah, the law where as we're moving into our future, we find out that we are carnivores, not vegetarians. And it could be a real struggle because we have such a stupid relationship in the world of people telling us this is the way it is, that's the way it should be, and nothing like that. But we've never had dharma yet. Yeah? We've never had a relationship where dharma comes in and the sangha receives, puts it into action, and changes the world as a new form of lifestyle. It's not a religion, it's a lifestyle that saves you. It saves you. It takes you out of darkness, it takes you out of disease and poison. You have no idea how much poison you're taking on every single level because of corruption. Yeah? And no matter how nice the person looks and all flowery and all from California and sunny and, looks like they came right off the heavenly, tree, and all they've ever eaten is fruit and little tiny buds of flowers and, and fresh sweet corn, just like that, and they're just as healthy as can be. But that's not true. That's genetics, folks. That's genetics. That has nothing to do with them being vegetarian. And part of that genetics includes some psychological problems. Yeah? It inhibits their ability to move forward and take a decision and not be a follower. The one thing of humanity that is our weakest point, we're all in the heart, we all have a soul, but when that is weak, we become pitiful. Pitiful, which means we pity ourselves. And when you pity yourself, you look to someone else to tell you you're okay. And you don't have a very good self-esteem, so you hear other people's ideas as your own. You can't take creativity, you can't move forward in a situation and make your own personal decision without someone else saying, oh yeah, that's a good idea. You could take years to finally make a commitment in something because you have a heart. And when you have a heart, you're undecided. Yeah, you're confused. You can't discern, discriminate. These are normal symptoms of the soul when the soul is weak. When it's down in the solar plex and it's pulling down on the heart because the heart's not strong enough for it to pull the solar plex up and strengthen it with wisdom and understanding, life experience, life experience. Not something from books, not something from this or that, but from life. And things that you do in wise actions, and you learn from it, you get character, it's character building, you lose vices, it's virtuous building, you gain wisdom that you can express as truth. Truth. Yeah? And that's Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. That's Bodhisattva quality. The inner Buddha within is the awakened heart. And it requires strength. And you really got to kick ass because there is no such thing as self-pity. Yeah? They're after me. Oh, they're not listening to me. Oh, they're, oh, I want this. And oh, they're not listening. Oh, this and that. That's pitiful. That's just pity. Yeah? But it's an enormous heart. Yeah? That something wouldn't be speaking like that if it didn't have a big heart. Problem is, it has a heart that's asleep. No strength, no vitality. And the heart is the healer. The heart is the teacher. It's not focused on organizing. It's focused on calming things down, creating peace by life experience, learning that it doesn't work pushing and pulling and shoving and doing all these other ways where the heart is understanding. It has a way of negotiating. It has a way of bringing the truth out rather than forcing the truth, forcing your own opinion. Yeah. Sixth ray does that. When you're weak, you're all sixth ray. And you don't want to be sixth ray. You don't want to be your solar plex. Yeah? And that's what everybody is. That's what makes you stupid. Makes you not understand and have to listen to it over and over and over again. And basically get it. But not fully. Just basically. Can't hear it. Can't see it. Can't understand it. Because you're in pity. Self-esteem's low. That means that your self-esteem is what pulls in your mind to be able to identify. And if you're so much in low self-esteem, where's your identity? There would be no identity to identify with low self-esteem. So you got to always build self-esteem by doing it. Going through the struggle of whatever it is that you're going through, you got to go through the struggle of doing it and learn how to do it. And some people it could take 100 lives just to get to a first initiation. Yeah. Other people it may take only 10 lives to get to a first initiation. And other people it may take only 10 years to get to your first initiation. And initiations have to do with waking up your heart, yeah, and allowing your solar plex not to be the follower that follows every cult on the planet. Yeah? You look up doctors, they're cult leaders. 10, 20 years, I tell them right away, that's a cult leader. You shouldn't be talking or listening or even texting this guy. But they continue. And it really gets me pretty wound up, because cult leaders are devils. And you're very attracted to devils. Very attracted to devils, because angels, they don't teach. They live. They have a lifestyle. Yeah? They express themselves in certain ways. They do things in certain ways. They behave in certain ways, but they do not teach. Yeah? They teach by doing. They teach by showing. They teach by expressing calmness at a time when it's not a bad time. Yeah? So we get all this kind of stuff that goes on that keeps us from getting into our heart center. Now, what happens if we're trying to deal with, we want to believe in the presidency of the United States. Yeah? We want to believe in the government of America. Yeah? And that's like a big religious organization. Here we're in America, and we believe in America. We believe in our foundation and our founding fathers and all that. But what does that mean? What does it mean? Yeah? The real truth behind it is that America is created by God as a monastery. As a monastery. Not as a place where you can buy better cars in America than you can in Russia. Not as that, even though that is the truth. That's not the reason for America. Yeah? The reason for America is to impress upon people the coming of Christ. The second coming. Yeah? America is the second coming. The finding of America and alleviating it from never having been found before by major countries and having its own, not a European-like nation and not a Asian-like nation and not a, countries of different ways that they build up their empires and they build up their kings and all that. This is a country that never did that. And that's a big country. It's been as long around just as much as all the other countries, and it has history. It has history. But the history is based on meditation. Strange enough. You go back 40,000 years, the American Indians were meditators. Yeah? Just as they were in the Asian country. Yeah? And when they did their shamanistic relationship to the earth and to the animals, they saw kingdoms. And they elevated themselves in this consciousness by their behavior, through kindness and, sharing and giving and, being of that nature. Not warlike until the final ending days when European nations and other countries started coming into America, creating all kinds of negative influences going into the Indians for about 300 years. And that influenced separation of Indian nations. It influenced all kinds of hostile shamanic activities and Black Lodge activities, and it allowed corruption to manifest inside the Indians. Yeah? But that's only 300 years. That's not the truth. The real truth is peace, governed by meditation, governed by holy governing reality, great temples. Yeah? And they had the problem. They had problems everybody else had, but today we don't want to talk about it. Their problems is that they had giants. Giants that were 15, 20, and 30 feet tall. They ate people. They ruined everything. They scared the shit out of everybody. Yeah? They created hostility. They were cannibals. It was an enormously hostile time. And the same thing happened with France. Study France and you'll find 30 foot tall, 40 foot tall, monsters like beings. Yeah? And you go from country to country and go back in our history, we'll find that that's where we were at. We had all kinds of terrible things in our kingdoms, in our life, that were in the world that we were dealing with. And we don't have any history, nothing written down, nothing telling us this is where we're coming from. Just 500 years ago. When Columbus came to the United States, when other explorers came to the United States, it's written in books. The first thing they found was giants. The first thing they found. And yet, we have no record of such things. And if anything, a 7-foot person is a giant. It's not a giant. A 30-foot person is a giant. Really big person. Really big. And they're not hunched over, and they are massively strong, massively fast. They can travel at 50 miles an hour at a run. You know, you can't get away from them. You know, imagine like being tackled by giants. You know, and that's your predator. You know, so your eating habits, your lifestyle, everything is based on temple building, you know, and taking out these giants one at a time. And you all had to gather together. All the Indians had to work together, surround the giants, and kill them. And if anybody got weak, anybody ran, and there was just only a few, it didn't work. Everybody had to do it. Everybody had to build a big pit. You had to get them into that area. You had to throw as many stones, as many spears you possibly could. You had to put them on fire, you know, and then as many as would be gone. You might have left over 100, you know, and that would last you another 50, 60, 100, 200 years of one family after another fighting the giants until they were all gone. And that's the history of Earth. That's the history of Earth, whether you're from Iraq, Israel, Turkey, Africa, China, Japan. I got video of a 22-foot giant that was alive in 1961 walking the streets of Japan. Yeah, he wasn't hunched over, he wasn't disfigured, you know. It was one really big dude, you know. And you know he didn't sit around eating vegetables. You know. He would have never gotten to that point. Never existed. They ate people and animals, every animal that they can possibly subsist on. You know, so that was our past. How you can't intellectualize it. You're only in fear. You are at war with the giants. That's how your life goes about. Yeah? The giants are in charge. Yeah? And hundreds of years, maybe thousands and thousands of years have gone by doing this sort of thing. It's in the Bible. That's thousands of years. That's almost 8,000 to 10,000 years ago when David went through his process. Yeah? Goliath. Yeah? And study others, you know. You'll find all the way back to the most ancient of days and times of different types of Egyptian understanding. Egyptian statues that are 40 feet tall, they found literally mummies that were 40 feet tall, encased, sitting inside. Yeah, so the statues aren't an exaggeration. They're life size. Yeah? And it's not like, you know, delusions of grandeur. These are kings and giants that took over the world. Yeah? And that process had moved through humanity over time. We eliminated them, but we also eliminated their history. We don't know they exist. So here I can explain, yeah, everybody reincarnates, and so do giants. And they come back as Hitler. Yeah? They come back as Genghis Khan. They come back as regular-sized people with great big egos that devour people. Devour them. Devour nations. Yeah? Have no consideration. None. Zero. They're giants. Yeah? And they're going to devour you and take over. And they're only going to be enforcing the will of hate. Because deep inside, there's no love. Deep inside, they're giants. They're a different race. Another kingdom. Yeah? Kingdom of hate. Kingdom of monsters. Yeah? That we simply don't want to even consider that this is something that goes on Earth. Because we look at each other and we just go, oh, I can't understand why they do this, why they're so mean, and why Trump does what he does and all that. I don't understand how that's possible. It's because of reincarnation, and these people do come back. Yeah? But we get rid of them by fostering the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. Yeah? And you do that by creating human rights in the middle of making no human rights. Every black person is a black person, has just stepped out of 1885 being a slave. Yeah? And the President of the United States made it possible, through a civil war and everything, to give rights. A president did that. Now, can you see Trump doing that? Yeah? Dying for his country? Yeah? I can't see Trump doing that. But yet another human being did, who was the President of the United States, carrying out the action of the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, 100% carrying it out. And had a very specific plan within that. Human rights, you know, the ability to people to speak freely, yeah, no harm, no hate, things of that nature, you know, where you can buy products and they're safe. As time goes on, that our enlightenment would bring that into our action. We would want to know every product on the store. We would want to know labels of how many calories there are. And being as stupid as we are, we're going to continue eating them, yeah, and all of that. But as the fact that the labels are there in order to, the moment we're ready, we read them and go, okay, I don't want that. Nope, don't need that. Nope, those are gone. Yeah, the labels themselves become discernment and discrimination. Where before, you'd be angry at a label. You know? You'd be going, sugar. So what's wrong with sugar? What's wrong with sugar? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with fat? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with preservatives? You know? What's wrong with having ice cream with 10,000 words behind it in the making of it? And you let it melt on the kitchen, in the kitchen on the counter, and you can't get it up once it hardens. It's overwhelming, and that's what's inside your body. You're a garbage dump, the worst kind. If you imagine a garbage dump with cigarette butts and all the different things that you can imagine, you know, the meat and the sugar and the grain, and you throw that in there, you got compost, right? You got all these bile and, you know, stuff growing, you know, because it's really a full of shit crap, you know, bin of terrible stuff, you know? It's just all, bleh. And that's what's inside our body. You know, people just go, oh, candy bar, oh, I'm just going to eat one. Okay, well, popcorn, oh, I love popcorn. Okay, yeah, thanks. Oh, ice cold Coca-Cola, yeah. You know, and it's got 30 things in it, written in it, you know. And you're eating that popcorn, and it's got carbs like you can't imagine. You can't count them. You know, you're going up 75, 80, 100, 90, because you just keep going, you know. And you're becoming a complete biochemical hazard. You know, a walking poison pit. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Imagine you take all that shit, put it into anything. and then open it up and smell it. Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, open up your trash can. That's you. That's you. That's your body. That's you. When you cough, it's all the shit trying to get through your pores and come out, and you digest it, you fart, you go, you got everything going on, and you think in your mind, you're not really thinking, you just, you're assuming, that the biohazards aren't harmful. They're not harmful, I can eat a banana peel, I can eat a banana, I can eat the box or the cereal, either one, I'm fine. I'm human. I can eat anything. I can smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, drink Coca-Cola, and live on that for years and years and years, and never notice, no one would hardly notice it, other than the fact that I'm aging pretty damn fast. But don't we all? No big deal, right? Because we're a toxic dump. We're a toxic dump. 100%. And that's what it's like in the government. That's what it's like in the whole world and everything, all things. But the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha it has one plan. One plan, which is the truth. And the truth does set you free. The truth does give you discernment. It is consciousness. The truth isn't I know that this works mathematically, or this is the proper way to say something, or this is how I define something. It's not that. The truth is your ability to have discernment and discrimination and live a lifestyle that keeps growing, that discernment and discrimination. That keeps it growing. And all of a sudden, you're letting go of shit, because you're realizing that that's not me. That's not what I do. That's not what I eat, And now we come to a place to where, you're all going to get to a place where you find out you're all actually carnivores, and that you actually come from a kingdom, a real kingdom. Oh my God, really? An actual kingdom. Not that there's a king who we are subservient to. No, we're from a kingdom. Like the animal kingdom. They're from the animal kingdom. Well, we're from the human kingdom. Big diff. Big diff. The human kingdom, we don't eat humans. Although, it's been known to happen. Been known to happen. And it's one of the biggest, happiest barbecues of people who do cannibalize. It's hard for them to stop because they enjoy it so much. It's such an enormous thing because it's inside of our kingdom. All the way to vampires, all the way to living forever, all the way to all these myths that come with being a cannibal. It's like we see on TV, all the people that are out there living, forever, walking around with one eye hanging out, and the arms hanging off, and the living dead, and they never die. What? They look like they're dying to me, but according to the storyteller, it's not the way it is. That's all bullshit. There is no living dead out there. And there's no such thing as vampires. And you don't live forever by drinking other people's blood. But it's in our myth. It's in our process. Because we are so deluded in our relationship of our need to live from the animal kingdom up. To receive from the animal kingdom into our kingdom to build our body, because they have similar glands. They have eyes. Not in the vegetable kingdom. They don't got eyes. They don't have our glands. How are we going to get healthy? How are we ever going to build our testicles? How are we going to clear our colon? There's no colon in the plant. Where is this relationship of similarity that brings about? Because here we have a thyroid. Well, we should be eating something else that has a thyroid. And we should be receiving, an automatic reality, an understanding that this is where we're attracted to. It's a simple thing. Let's go get ourselves a cow. Oh no, we can't do that. Krishna brought the cow, and God's a cow, and don't you know, we can't kill any animals because why? Well, freaking really confusing. But we are vegetarian, and we eat a lot of sugar. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Crazy as shit. Yeah. It's totally untrue, and it's a dying untruth, and it's created in the Kali Yuga after Krishna. It's not during the time of Krishna. Krishna was a very specifically different person. Ram was a very different, he was a hunter. How can a hunter be a vegetarian? How does that work? Well, you go hunt a lot of meat, and you go back and eat vegetables. Well, what do you do with the meat? What's the purpose? Yeah? What was Ram a hunter of man? Was he a warrior? Did he go around with his bow and arrow and shoot people he didn't like? No. He was a hunter of animals. But yet that's not written too much in history, in the Hindu texts, because they have this demigod reality to the animal kingdom. That the animals are part of God. Yeah? And we defile God's creation if we take our relationship to that. Yeah? And we're not in that boat. Yeah? So everything is governed. It's all about governing. The Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. This is all absolutely confusing if we don't have governing. And governing comes out of Buddha. Buddha is a kingdom above the human kingdom. There's the Buddha kingdom. Well, don't you think Buddha would know how that human kingdom is supposed to behave? Yeah? It's not really of the human kingdom. It's helping. Here to help. Yeah? That's why Buddha is known as the helper. That's why the second coming of Christ is known as the helper. Not the Messiah, but the helper. Yeah? And that process is to help people realize, what is our nature? How does our nature come about? And it's through governing influence that comes through the second coming of Christ. Second coming of Christ has these chakras, has these influences, has these elemental influences that awaken consciousness inside of humanity, and it goes into the governing body. So there's a plan involved in it, and it's a long-term plan. Could be hundreds of years in the process of healing and evolving and raising up humanity to not go down, but to go up. Yeah? And to see all the things in front of them, the humans as equals. Yeah? The animal as that which serves. Yeah? That's what you eat. And you give thanks. When the fish comes to you, you catch the fish. You don't catch 1,000 fish. You don't need 1,000 fish. You only need 1 or 2. So that's what you catch. But what if you're a greedy asshole and you get yourself a great big boat and you buy yourself a few people that you're going to pay very low money to, and they're all going to go out and catch 1 million fish? Yeah? And that's all wrong. Yeah? We should eat what we can eat. And if we are in this world and we're dealing with this governing relationship, it's a governing relationship, an embodiment that comes into us. Yeah? Through the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. Yeah? So the Dharma has law, and the law comes in to the President of the United States, an overshadowing influence. And yet we go, whoa, what, wait, whoa, Trump? When was he overshadowed? How can any of that be that? But he's not the only president there's ever been. Yeah? If you choose the right person, you will receive Jesus Christ in that person. Yeah? Because from the time of Kennedy, when I took over this position, yeah, I was 10 years old. Yeah, I took over the position of the President of the United States. I know it sounds strange, but the Tibetans came, said I was the Lord of the world, and I'm living in America. I'm watching the news. The one thing I would rather do is help govern this United States and bring it into right action. So I overshadowed all presidents from that point in time. And I always saw myself as the existing presidents, and they would be my emanations. And that's the way I look at things in Tibet. I have hundreds of emanations, and I run the governing aspect of Tibetan Buddhism. Yeah? If it's working right. If it's not, then I'm kicked out, and we've got a fake teacher, a Dalai Lama or other people in there. But right now, the governing aspect is still happening in Tibet, and the governing aspect is happening here in America. So if we look at our history, we can't see it in Trump, yeah? But we can see it in the history of America. You think of George Washington. George Washington wasn't just George Washington. George Washington was the guy who made it possible for the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States to be put together right in front of him without him having any involvement with it at all. He waited on the outside. He listened to every argument they had. He made it possible, because he was president, he made it possible for them to go find a hall, hang out, do this in private, work it out, write it up, get it together. Yeah? And he overshadowed that. Yeah? Because he was a disciple. And as a disciple, you can govern. Yeah? So that was our first president, and that was a president who was a disciple, who brought the energy in order to govern. Yeah? And at that time, we couldn't agree, we couldn't cooperate. And cooperation is governing. That's what comes in. Yeah? It is the spirit of cooperation. The Holy Spirit creates governing. It's the beginning bodhisattva energy. Yeah? Is cooperation. That's bodhisattva. I care about you, you care about me. This is just where it starts. Yeah? Bodhisattva, love. Yeah? But that energy, that influence, yeah, is the influence behind cooperation. So here comes the president, here comes Washington, and I need the United States to be the United States, and for there to be all these different states, and for all of them to cooperate together as the United States, united in communion with fellowship, yeah, like a freaking religion, yeah, and it was overshadowed in the form of God, yeah. So the president himself was able to hear and see and feel and express words that was coming directly from Christ. And that would go directly into the Constitution. Then we go on and we get to Lincoln. And now what was put in that Constitution now is coming into effect. Yeah? This took another 100 years. 1776, 1886. Yeah? Civil War, President Lincoln, you know. All we're getting is it takes time for these invocations to go into effect and govern. Changing a whole mass, a whole United States mass, where there is enormous separation because of the world. The world is evil. The world has corruption. The world has kings and giants and bullshit that is coming at you, but you have no idea. It's hidden. Yeah? And through the governing power, it makes human rights come about that were taken away. Like the need for everybody to have a house, the need for food stamps, the need for care for elderly, the need for care for little children in order to, when you're born, you know, what happens when your mom has a job? Well, does she get to be able to stay home? Does she get taken care of? Is there any hospitalization? Any of that. None of that was involved in the process due to poverty and due to your position in life, due to our relationships of not being Christians, not caring, not being real Christians. Even though we said it, we weren't it. But it is happening. It's coming in, yeah, through the art of governing, yeah. And the governing is nothing more than the Holy Spirit comes in, reaches the president, goes into the embodiment of the people that then react to the word, and the word changes everything. And these are saints. They're all saints. Every single one of them is a saint. So here comes Lincoln. Now, we all know he was a freaking saint. He's a super great guy, yeah? And he dies and he goes through this process. But it made the end of slavery. Made the end of slavery. So you can see in the working out of this plan, the plan is human rights. The plan is freedom, yeah? That's what the United States is based on, yeah? Yeah? It's in the preamble. We have these rights, yeah? We are meant to be happy. We are meant to find justice and get rid of evil. Yeah? Have it not be amongst us, but be so clear that we actually heal evil and transmute it and transform it, and it doesn't come back. Yeah? And that's inside our governing process. It's inside the governing process. Yeah. So we see this going along. We get to Lincoln. Lincoln establishes that. And by the time we get to 1960, which is less than 100 years, and it takes about 100 years for major events like this to begin incorporating themselves, out of the prejudice of the lives at that time. Then they reincarnate, and they've learned from that life. They come back and incarnate. Now they want to instill that dharma, Buddha, Sangha, into the actions of the world, because they're governed. They were blessed in their previous life by Lincoln, or by Washington, by the United States. Yeah, by the United States. And this happens through our president. Yeah, even though we got Trump, I'm just telling you, I can prove to you that it happens through our presidents, and we've had it come. And here we've gone through Lincoln, and then up comes 1960, bam. We got Kennedy, and we have Johnson, and they have so many things they're pulling off. Yeah, their Peace Corps, and their, the human rights, and so many bills of getting us to the moon, and getting us in space, and getting us away from nuclear Holocaust, and all these different things, a plan that could never have been started if we weren't governed by the Holy Spirit back in the beginning of presidents. And they carry this transmission coming in. And it manifests where we're at. It takes time, because you study it more, and you'll find, we had Kennedy and Johnson, wow, man, the guy did good. Yeah, Kennedy did good. Yeah. And then we go down the road, and we get an asshole, and we get another asshole, and we get another asshole. And they don't really do anything, because it's not something that manifests right through, because they're not carrying the same light. It takes time for that light to come through. So maybe 15, 20, 30, 40 years later, in comes another president, Jimmy Carter. Yeah? Jimmy Carter comes and says, I'm going to build freaking homes for all poor people. Is that a president? Really? He is a fulfillment of the invocation. Not just a president, but he's teaching through action. Yeah? Governing. He's governed himself. He is governed by Christ. He can't not do it, and he will live a long life under this embodiment of Christ as president. And he knows that he's anointed in that process, and that he's a saint in that process, and he's heavily Christian, and yet he could just hang out. He could just go be a Trump. But no. He goes and builds houses for the rest of his life. He's still doing it today. I mean, I think till 2018 he was doing it. Yeah, I mean, God, the man's like 90, so it's got to slow down a little bit. Yeah, but that's our truth. We have these governing embodiments that come in. And now we have another president, Biden, who has the entire list of everything that Johnson tried to pull off. He's going back and reestablishing it and pushing it even further. Everything, the whole list. He's got 65 things. Johnson only had 22. Kennedy only had 24. Biden has 65. And it includes everything, all the way back to Lincoln. All the statements that Lincoln wanted to pull off is in Biden's requests. Yeah? This is an overwhelming opportunity situation, and it will manifest. It will manifest. But at the same time, a discernment and discrimination is going to come about for us to realize that evil can get in the way of the good. And that even though it seems so good today, with the wrong person at hand, we could walk into a nuclear holocaust within just a year or two. Even though there is no destiny, no involvement, no plan whatsoever, other than there is North Korea and there is Russia and China, who is all set for such a thing, only if we were governed by a demon. And since they're governed by demons, that cooperation within demons would be a world annihilation. Yeah? And that is a plan. That's another plan over here. Yeah? It's another plan. And we're all fighting against that plan. And it's a scary plan. And we don't need to go crazy thinking that that's what's going to happen. That's so scary, It just stifles us from going further. Yeah? But it's just going to go away. Yeah? Because these people are going to freaking die. Yeah? Guy in North Korea, guy in China, yeah? Our little Trump, his kids, yeah? All die. Everybody dies, yeah? We don't have to assassinate anybody. We don't have to do anything. All we have to do is stick toward the Dharma and the Sangha, yeah? The more we can see that we can actually move this direction. It's very difficult for people to do the simplest things in life, you know? But it's moving people in that direction. People are moving. Enormous numbers of people are becoming carnivore. And that's, if you study it and you look at it and you listen to their videos and everything, everybody on carnivore never wants to talk about it in public with anybody at all, ever. Whether it be family or at a restaurant, you know, it's not something you evangelize, yeah? Where if you're vegetarian, whoa, you get all cocky, you know, and you just go, oh, you know, oh, no. You know, is that organic, you know? I don't know, it doesn't have the right color. You know, I need blue. You know, I need a lot of purple in my diet, you know. I'm going orange today. I'm only drinking orange juice and carrot. Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. It's true. It's what goes on. Yeah. And these people are religious cult leaders. Yeah. They're little cult leaders in their own life. Yeah. And it's so easy to fall into the process of being a cult leader because, you know, it's just a power structure. Yeah. And you follow into vegetarianism or any kind of structured diet, even a paleo diet or a keto diet or something like that. All of a sudden, you know, you can go to McDonald's and they have a keto burger, you know. Oh, wow, great. I can eat a keto burger here at McDonald's. That's just great, you know. And you can, you know. But that means that something's wrong. Something's not right, you know, if things are flowing like that, yeah. Because we actually go further. We go to a mono diet. It's just, you know, totally carnivore, yeah? And then your discernment and discrimination in the process of that, because you're making yourself into a very much smaller package to your discernment and discrimination. If you have the evil spirit moving through you, it gives you too many options, yeah? It's like going into a smorgasbord, you know. Where do I stop? You know, dessert at the end or dessert in the beginning? What, you know? I mean, God, this is like heaven. You know, no, it's not like heaven. Yeah. But one, you know, crazy person goes, oh, I'm in heaven, yay. Yeah. You know, but smorgasbords, things of that nature, is where everything starts moving backwards. Because we can't make these decisions. We can't go in and do that sort of discernment. We have to learn through lifestyle. And then it comes in to a mono reality. And it's not like, oh, we just learned carnivore, so over the next year or so, everybody's going to become carnivore. It doesn't work like that. Yeah? It's an individual process. But I'm saying these things so you will realize the changes within the world. Yeah, and realize that the outcome is going to be a mono diet. And it's not a religion. It is just a discernment of how healthy do you want to be. Yeah. Do you want to have your brain cells working? Do you want all your glands working? Yeah. Do you want your lymph glands not all inflamed? Yeah. Do you want your bowels to work? Yeah. Do you want everything in all relationships, your stomach, your bowels, your nerves, your bones, all of that to function as you grow older? Yeah? And we will spend all our time in knowledge if you don't get what I'm saying. Yeah? Yeah, because it's the evil spirit. The evil spirit will keep you coming up with ideas, keeping people busy, keeping yourself busy. Oh, this'll work. Oh, that's the one. Oh, I got to do that. That's the evil spirit. And it's not the evil spirit that causes you to take a knife out and kill somebody, but it's the evil spirit that tells you a lie. And you can't discern it or discriminate from it. So you actually continue it, thinking that it's a truth. And it's not wisdom, it's knowledge. Yeah? And knowledge could do that to you. Knowledge will just make you really believe in something that isn't true. Yeah? So we're going to move through this process, and through governing process, we're going to move through the process. Yeah? For us to realize that everything is involved in the healing of the chakras, and a governing body, and a large governing body like the United States, it has to show its illuminating consciousness. There has to be a change in illuminating consciousness in order for the world to be healed. Yeah? And it's showing that, because we could see it in our presidents. Yeah? We're looking at Biden. Now, if you just don't go crazy, yeah, just watch it for what it is, for what I've explained to you. Yeah, this is what Kennedy did. This is what Johnson did. This is what Carter did. They're not all evil. They're not all crazy. They're not all there in order to become a glorified president. Yeah? Huh? I mean, that's what Ronald Reagan was. Yeah? And we didn't get anything done. We could have been to a nuclear war. We really had a big problem there. Yeah? But the outcome is that slowly but surely it leads us to those people who are going to lead us into consciousness with a heart, with very high evolved levels of their consciousness coming into service, like a person like Johnson, a person like Kennedy. Yeah? When they came into service, if you knew Johnson, you'd know that, geez, 1928 he started his service. Yeah? He was a senator back in 1932. You know? He was vice president in 60. He spent all that time in the government, in the office, talking to everybody, getting to know everybody, learning everything, never ever imagining that he would be the one who'd be president. Yeah? It just didn't work out like that. That didn't seem like this is how it's going to work. Yeah? But he became president through a process of losing Kennedy and him being vice president, and all of a sudden he's president. And everything that was of his soul was of the same relationship in Kennedy. Yeah? So they embodied this consciousness, a governing consciousness that governed their way of governing if they were to be president. So one overshadowed the other. The governing body of the collective, the group of presidents. Group of presidents. Not a given president, but a group of presidents. George Washington, Lincoln, yeah? Groups of presidents. They stand side by side. Yeah? They may have been hundreds of years ago, but they're not. They're our country. They're our forefathers. Yeah? And their influence is really what attracts this consciousness to us and keeps it coming to where, on occasion, we get the president that comes in that represents our country and represents our governing body. And they're going to be the president of the president at that time. Just like Carter was the president of presidents, Johnson was the president of presidents. Kennedy was president of presidents. Lincoln, president of presidents. So many of them. Roosevelt, great president. He did so many things. Yeah? And all of it done over the influence of caring, through sharing, and consciousness of their previous life initiations and the opportunity for them to be president. Many of these presidents really weren't elected to be president. Like Johnson, he wasn't elected, and Roosevelt and others, they weren't elected. People died, and they were put into office. Yeah. Carter got to be elected because there was nobody capable of being president at the time. We were at a complete loss. Yeah. I think we went from Gerald Ford or something to, no, I think Gerald Ford was even after that. Yeah. But look at those presidents and look at the time of periods of time, and the consciousness that drew those people into their life is what governs all of us. Yeah? We don't get a president until we're ready for that president, because it all channels into us all. That's the Buddha, the Dharma, Sangha. Yeah? The governing relationship that happens in government is the Dharma. It's the law. President is the head of the law. He's the head. The president is the officer in charge of law. I know Trump went wildly crazy over that, but the truth is the truth. They are the government of that law. And any new laws that come into play, if their consciousness is really availed to the highest of consciousness that comes with all the presidents under the plan of the government. The plan of the government is something that is thousands of years long, far off into the future. It impresses upon us in this day. Yeah? And it comes from the past, because that far off future brought that past together. Yeah? The Alpha Omega, the reality of our life, is that life is like that. Our future and our past is what makes up our present. Yeah? And there's no separation. So we have to give reverence to our presidents. And we have to not have reverence to presidents who recommend evil, bring about laws of injustice, deteriorate previous laws that have been put in the plan, made manifest, and they deteriorate. And what that means is that they would lower the ability of equal rights for people to get a house, for people to rent a house. A black person, no, you can't rent this house. Chinese person, no, you can't rent this house. No. And that's these kind of people. But then if you have a president that's a right president, that president wants to make it possible to pass laws that makes it impossible for you to be placed in bias over any house you can afford to buy. Any place you want to live is dependent upon your choice and your ability, and not due to the fact that you are a gender or a color or a person of a particular political affiliation. Yeah? Or even under a business. Yeah? The influence of the law is to come in to realize these things that inhibit people's freedom. Yeah? And the president on top is to feel the need all the way down to the bottom. That's where that heart's at. That's why Carter did what he did. He went and built houses for people who are homeless because he couldn't sleep at night. He was in the trenches at the lowest level, raising people up. Yeah? Because that's his service, and that's what he was when he was the President of the United States. Yeah? If Kennedy had lived, he would have done the same thing. Yeah? And same process with Johnson. He went through everything and then died. Yeah? Yeah, because it was too much. The whole process of Vietnam, his age, the tragedy of all the things that came down, drove him crazy. Yeah? Literally gave him a nervous breakdown, and he died. Yeah? So to hold this influence into humanity, it's the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. And it's really difficult because the influence that keeps things going in a fluid way has everything to do with government. And we need to recognize, the ongoing influence of having trust in the embodiment of governing. Here I teach that all presidents are emanations that come out of Christ, and that the making of the United States, the moving of people to come to the United States, the blessing of all the Indians in the United States, and the blessings of all the nations in the world, and the elimination of all the giants, and all done by Jesus Christ, and all the incarnations of Jesus Christ. That's my activity. I'm sitting on top. This is what I'm doing. I'm seeing the problems, and I'm fixing them. But I govern from below. Yeah? And I raise up presidents out of humanity. And they manifest through many lives of carrying out these actions of service so that they can be in command of their own discernment and their own faculties. Yeah? And that gives the blessing of what happens from governing. You free a person up to be more than what they ever thought they could be. Yeah? To be a greater nation than they ever imagined this nation could be. It's greater than you think. Yeah? It's not just great freeways. It's not just great cars. It's not just great, ability to drive so far in so many places without a lot of hassle. Yeah, it's consciousness. It's consciousness that's in the land. It's consciousness that's in people, and it's the governing body that's in a state of evolution as it goes down the road. Let me show you this. I titled this "The Worst President." So this starts off with a little thing on Trump.
He says, quote, "If we don't solve the presidential election fraud of 2020, which we have thoroughly and conclusively documented, Republicans will not be voting in 22 or 24. It is the single most important thing for Republicans to do."
So as he's leaving and dying, because he's dying, no one knows this, but the man's dying. He has very little time left, yeah? And it's going to be over with. But before he goes, we're going to find out a lot, yeah? A whole lot. And part of that is what he's doing right here. This shows that he's got this little thing over Trump National, huge tax cut. And what he has is a golf course in Westminster. And at that golf course, he's doing fraud with tax. He's doing fraud with banks. He's doing fraud with the state and with the county. You have county tax, you own this great big place. It's worth, according to him, it's worth $1.4 million. Yep. And that means a house, a standard house, a rich house, $1.4 million. That's truth. Yeah. But this isn't. This is 230 acres of a golf course with a mansion sitting on top of it. Maybe more than a 1.4. So the county says, we've assessed it. It's 15 million. No less than 15 million. Yeah. On the market, it would be at least 25 to 30 million. But just as assessing it, it's 15 million. So you need to pay your taxes. And he's going, no, it's 1.4. I won't pay more than that. That's 80% less than the original price, right? And he thinks this is going to work. And he's done it for like 11 years, And so, and then he becomes president, yeah? And he has to put in, through the presidency, he has to say how much money he's worth. Yeah, this building I own is worth this much. This building I own over here is worth this much. This golf course is worth this much. Well, when he put his thing in, not to tax or anything like that, but in order to have credibility, yeah, he says, well, yeah, Westminster is worth 50 million plus. 50 million plus, yeah? That's not 1.4 million. That's a whole lot more than 15 million. And he's literally written down in a statement to the government that this is worth over 50 million, yeah? And he only paid tax on 1.4 million, yeah? And that's for 7 years he's done that, yeah? So this is like coming up, yeah? And the biggest problem of that is that this is in a county. This is a county tax, yeah? So imagine, where did that money go? It goes to schools. It pays for children's lunches. Yeah, that's what it does. It pays. So they've had to cut all children's lunches. Yeah, because the money that he was supposed to pay in his taxes was the money that they were going to pay in their taxes toward the county, the number of people that live in the county and the children in the county and all the things that come from it, yeah? But they couldn't afford to do that because he decided to lie and say his place is only worth 1.4 million, so you're only getting maybe about $10,000, in tax, rather than $4.3 million in tax, which would have been a really grateful gesture in relationship to all those children. So they're ripping off children left and right. That's that one.
Fault. He says, quote, "If we don't solve the presidential..."
And then here,
any other person was there and became president.
This is our our lovely Kennedy.
Providing for the establishment of a Peace Corps on a temporary pilot basis. I'm also sending to Congress a message proposing authorization of a permanent Peace Corps. This Corps will be a pool of trained men and women sent overseas by the United States government or through private institutions and organizations to help foreign countries meet their urgent needs for skilled manpower. It is our hope to have between 500 to 1,000 people in the field by the end of this year. We will send Americans abroad who are qualified to do a job. We will send those abroad who are committed to the concept which motivates the Peace Corps. It will not be easy. None of the men and women will be paid a salary. They will live at the same level as the citizens of the country which they're sent to, doing the same work, eating the same food, speaking the same language. We're going to put particular emphasis on those men and women who have skills in teaching, agriculture, and in health. I'm hopeful that it will be a source of satisfaction to Americans and a contribution to world peace.
November 22nd, 1963. John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. In that moment of national tragedy, Lyndon Baines Johnson became the 36th President of the United States. He now faced the task of leading a grieving nation and world.
All I have, I would have given gladly not to be standing here today. No words are sad enough to express our sense of loss. No words are strong enough to express our determination to continue the forward thrust of America that he began.
The one man who knew more about this government than any other person was there and became president. In legislative terms, he'd been in Washington since 1931, so he had a practical knowledge of events. And he was always on the phone, and he would be after a chairman. And, let's get that bill out of there. Come on, we ought to get it out by tomorrow. He knew the process so darn well.
So, he was testified for $60,000 for you. Now, you're not going to beat me on excise taxes and run my budget this year. Now, who are you going to take? You going to take all your Republicans? Give me one or two of them, and let them be prudent. You're a hard bargain. Will you get them for me?
And he just had constantly a sense of urgency. First, Kennedy's tax cut, the new economics which he got through, and some of those bills that were languishing, and then the Civil Rights Bill was a monument.
We believe that all men are created equal, yet many are denied equal treatment. The purpose of this law is simple. It does not restrict the freedom of any American. It does say that there are those who are equal before God shall now also be equal in the polling booths, in the classrooms, in the factories, and in hotels and restaurants and movie theaters and other places that provide service to the public.
He never lost that idea of we've got to do something better for the folks at the bottom of the economic ladder.
And this administration today, here and now, declares unconditional war on...
So you could see that they're very serious in relationship to humanity. And that when they're initiates like that, if you study Christ, Christ works with the poor. Yeah, that's what Christ deals with. Christ doesn't give a shit about rich people and people who are doctors or lawyers or anything like that. That just doesn't. That's just an illusion that will pass as time goes by. Those are all positions that are made necessary because people are very ignorant and they need to be told what to do. You know, but as time goes on, we're going to be our own master. You are to be a master. And you got to be a good disciple to do that. And all of these presidents that I'm showing you are masters, that are living in society as a third degree initiate, not the first or second, but at least the third, the ones I've showed you. They're third degree initiates. It's very rare to get that. And I was incarnated at the time of their life, so they had me furthering that process. I even went to Vietnam. I fought in the Vietnam War in 2 different militaries, in both the Marines and the Navy, under the influence of this guy. And I was there in order to make sure things worked out the way they're supposed to. That we're not to continue war the way that in his mind he had to continue. But in my mind, we didn't. That's not what's going to come down. We're going to end this war, and we're going to do it in the right way. And he couldn't come up with that decision, but that decision was made. I made that decision, he made that decision, and it was furthered. But that was the one thing that broke him, because he didn't have a level of heart on a large whole scale like that yet. That's the biggest problem with governing, is that people need to be higher initiates. He needed to be a 4th degree initiate for him to make that decision. And he wasn't able to do that. If Kennedy was able to get to 50 years old, he would have been a 4th degree initiate. 50 years old. He was only 40 years old when he became president of the United States, 40 some odd years old. Wiser than you can ever imagine. Able to clarify and put things together the way they're meant to be. But with a wiser state of mind and a little further on down the line, his ability to govern and understand. Just like in Obama, today, he's a different man than he was 15 years ago. He's a calmer, wiser, affiliated initiate. He's an initiate, And he's now governing in his life. He's happy, he's peaceful, he's not overwhelmed by anything, And that's what happens when you're an initiate. And you're giving these responsibilities as a president or as a governor or whatever, but it is the initiate that brings this about. Here's the rest of Johnson. I don't hear any sound. You have any reason why there's no sound there, Lars? There it is.
Are denied equal treatment. The purpose of this law is simple. It does not restrict the freedom of any American. It does say that there are those who are equal before God shall now also be equal in the polling booths, in the classrooms, in the factories, and in hotels and restaurants and movie theaters and other places that provide service to the public.
He never lost that idea of we've got to do something better for the folks at the bottom of the economic ladder.
And this administration today, here and now, declares unconditional war on poverty in America.
The president was at the height of his popularity during the 1964 presidential campaign and was elected in his own right by a popular vote larger than that of any previous president.
The little that I knew, I never thought then, in 1928, that I would be standing here in 1965. It never even occurred to me in my fondest dreams that I might have the chance to help the sons and daughters of those students and to help people like them all over this country. But now I do have that chance. And I'll let you in on a secret. I mean to use it.
Which would change many aspects of American life.
Over 200 bills that you would consider to be landmark legislation.
There were no consumer bills when Johnson became president. There wasn't a Civil Rights Act for public accommodations. There was no protection for voting rights. There was no fair housing legislation. All of those bills passed during his presidency. There was no Medicare program for old people. There was no Medicaid program for poor people.
We created Upward Bound. We created Head Start. We created legal services for the poor. We created neighborhood health centers for the poor, etc. Pushing, shoving, moving, always forward, because he likes to see progress.
You want to really know him, just work for him one day.
The division at home was not confined to the war. Race riots broke out in the ghettos of Watts, Newark, and Detroit. Then in 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Riots followed in over 40 U.S. cities. Then Senator Robert Kennedy was assassinated in June. Through it all, the space program was still on target for landing a man on the moon by the decade's end, and Great Society legislation continued.
If they would let me climb up there to where those television cameras are, I would like to shout this from the rooftop. We've come here this morning to sign education laws number 59 and 60 since the beginning of this administration. With our hopes and the world's hopes for peace and the balance every day, I do not believe that I should devote an hour or a day of my time to any personal partisan causes or to any duties other than the awesome duties of this office, the presidency of your country. Accordingly, I shall not seek and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president. Thank you for listening. Good night, and God bless all of you.
It was deep in him to do the right thing for this nation. And he tried. God knows. No one ever tried more.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Carter, and I want to talk to you about a problem facing more than 30 million Americans today, the problem of poverty housing. Rosen and I have joined thousands of Habitat for Humanity volunteers to build decent, affordable houses. This summer, Habitat supporters from around the world will work in partnership with people in need to build low-cost houses. We'll be building near you, and we need your help. Won't you join us?
Call Habitat at 696-7788.
Jimmy Carter and his wife Rosalind are still building homes for Habitat for Humanity, an annual tradition they started more than 30 years ago.
We've built almost 5,000 houses now. It's been one of the most gratifying and challenging and difficult things we've ever done, physically speaking, because we've gotten steadily older. I was a lot younger when I first started.
He was 56 and fresh out of the White House when he first took up the hammer as a volunteer home builder.
We hope it'll go like this all over the world. We're now building one home each day for poor people in need.
I happen to be a Christian, and it's a practical way to put my religious beliefs into practical use. And this is the best way I know to cross that very difficult chasm between rich people and people that never have had a decent place in which to live.
So, the law is the law, yeah? If you look at the history of America, we go by the law. The law passes down, and we may fall short of it, and in the moment, we can't see it. We can't see through all the trees. We can't see through all the confusion and all the stuff that's going on. But later, you can see Johnson's work. You can see Kennedy's work. You can see and read about, Abraham Lincoln and Washington and the processes that went through and how they were intended, what the intention is. Yeah, the intention is based on the Bill of Rights, human rights, and that's based on the Bible, the Ten Commandments. So the outcome is that we live in the Ten Commandments. We can't do that right now. Everybody wants a gun. And they're all confused. They don't know if they should have a gun because everybody's getting a gun now. So it's a real trigger, like, wow, should I at least own a gun? I mean, I could just, have it someplace, What if a bear comes? I definitely want to protect myself from a bear, I don't know. I'd do everything not to be in a place where there's a bear, and use bear spray, and have a big car and jump in that car, And if I'm stupid enough to be in a place where there's a bear and it's going to kill my ass, that's my day to die. And it's a good day to die. And that's just how it is. It's not pitiful. All right, next time, I'm not going anywhere where there's bears. I'm wiser. I might live longer. Yeah, it's true. We all live by that. We're governed by this wisdom. Yeah, and we could see in the United States, we can see in the presidents, don't let what we have going on today, the fact that there is a guy in Russia who's, complete dictator, guy in China is a complete dictator, the guy in North Korea, complete dictator. And Trump loved them, and, everybody just wanted to, the Christian crazies, wanted to think that he was an incarnation of a prophet that soon to come, and like they said, he used a prostitute, didn't he? If you can use a prostitute and make a prostitute a saint like Mary Magdalena, then obviously he can use Trump, make Trump a saint, if he can use a prostitute. Trust me, that's where their heads are at. Yeah, because they never used a prostitute. She never became a saint. She ended up the way she did. If you study it, you'll find out all the kingdoms of Europe have fallen because of that lack of grace and that lie of illusion of her being a child, carrying of Jesus the Christ, and that all the bloodline of France and Gaul and England is based on this Mary Magdalena's bloodline. It goes back into history. It's bullshit. Yeah. And it's, there are repercussions that come from things like this. And we're working in this government to have an overshadowing of the second coming of Christ, the foundation of Christ and the second coming of Christ. Foundation is the creation of this planet. It's not like, that was 2,000 years ago, the foundation of Christ. It's in the creation of the planet. And this is the facilitation, bringing the law onto the planet. That's like the Ten Commandments. Definitely the law. God is the law. And if there's a Jesus, Jesus is the provider of the law. And if there's a law and you have a government and not a dictatorship or some other freaking form where there's no law, just governing by dictatorship, true law is the law of love. Caring and sharing, eliminating that entire dark perspective of life that comes on you when soullessness comes into play by a person like Trump. Here we've had all these presidents, Carter, who did what he did, and he's still doing it, and all the rest are still doing good things, None of them went out there and went to prison. None of them went out there and got one court case against them. Not one court case against previous presidents that we know of. Yeah? And yet, this guy has 10 court cases a week, all new ones. Lawyers are losing their licenses because they can't practice the law because they're living by the law of hate, the law of illusion, the law of delusion, the law of lies. Yeah? And so everything is really based on the truth, and the truth is the truth. It's not something you make up and you have to change to make the truth happen. The truth is already happening. Trump is destroying the truth, covers up lies in order to keep you from the truth. So when we think of presidents, we're scared now. We're not sure who we're going to get, what we're going to get. Well, we got to realize that this is about the overshadowing of our beautiful government. Government, governing by God. One nation under God. And this is the place where Jesus Christ took his incarnation. And he lives here all the time. In America. In Shambhala. And Shambhala is the only ray that is governing. It's the first ray. It's the ray of government. There would be no government. There would be nothing like that if there wasn't the first ray. First ray brings that. First ray on the lesser side brings Lucifer, brings the devil, brings evil kings, brings trumps, yeah, all representing that evil side of the first ray, where you don't care about other people, you kill other people, you destroy other people, you walk on them like a giant, because you see it in a totally different perspective. You don't see them as human, you see them as material objects to be used and discarded. Yeah, that's, you take these rays and turn them upside down, you've got the most evil, vile, non-complementary creatures on earth. Yeah, and he's just one of them. And he's the example of what we don't want. Because we will spend all of our time trying to believe someone who's going to end up in prison, and everybody who follows them ends up in prison. That includes all of us. All the people who went into Washington and thought they were doing the right thing by the President of the United States, who he said was, you got to do this because in the end you're going to find out that I really am the president and you don't want to not do anything, you know. So he mustered everybody up into that process of his hate and created all these people going to prison now, in jail. Yeah. And a lot of people lost their jobs. Yeah. Lost total credibility in their family. And there's still people following QAnon. Yeah. So it's all delusions, illusions, and lies. But you have to realize in the reality of things, it has to do with individuals have power. They're initiates, either on the dark side or on the light side. Yeah? And what we have in Biden is a high initiate. Yeah? You just don't get it. This guy, before he was 50 years old, he was a third-degree initiate. Yeah? He lost his family, he lost everything, he stayed on the job, stayed focused. He is the one person in our government who is the oldest, most professional person who's been on the job more than anybody else. And that's never thought of. No one ever thinks about it. That's like having 5 presidents in one in this guy through experience. He knows every young senator, all top senators, all congressmen, everybody and anybody. And he was vice president at one time for 2 terms. And yet, who even talks about it? Like as though there could be something wrong with this guy. And there's not. We should be very thankful. Very, very, very thankful. Yeah? And you should put that in your prayers. Yeah? You should put that in your thoughts. And you should feel more trust toward this world because he's in the office. Yeah? And he's being overshadowed by me. And he's doing the best job anybody can do under these conditions. He's got an opposite president running a government while he's in office. And people run around declaring that he's still in president, he's still running the military, he's still in office and making laws, and the airplane that Biden flies on isn't real, and that the real airplane is Trump's plane, and it's all a cover-up. These people have gone crazy because Trump is telling them all these lies. And they can't make any discernment of it. They can only go, well, then it's got to be QAnon thing. It's got to be everything they say. You know? Why would he lie like that? Why would he lie so much? It's got to be the truth. Yeah? Yeah? You know, so that's what we're learning. Yeah? Our process is to learn that our government is a holy monastery. It is not a structure that we call Washington government. It is a ministry of God. These people are chosen, and if the people choose and they are possessed, and lying is what puts the person in the office, because Trump did not win in 2016. He didn't have the votes. Yeah? Hillary Clinton won. But no one talks about that. Yeah? The only thing that didn't work was the ballots, the electoral votes. Yeah? And those are the one things you should question. Not the votes, but the electoral votes. These people pushed it the opposite direction in representation of the people. If the votes are so high for a single candidate, but yet the electoral vote chooses a different candidate, then there's hanky-panky going on. The people who represent the people for the electoral votes are not representing the people equally. And they're making a choice, going, no, I'm not going to vote for this guy. Instead, they vote for the other guy. And that's what happened for Hillary Clinton, because people didn't want a woman for president. Yeah? It was a very weak process. Yeah, it was very close in other periods of time, but that particular one was the weakest period of time because we had Hillary Clinton running for president. We had nobody else to run against this guy, and he didn't win. And he didn't win the second time, and he would have not given up that time either. He would have done the same thing and pushed himself into the process and ruined everything she would have ever tried to do for all the time she's in office, which is what he's trying to do with Biden. He's trying to take up everybody's GOP. He told the entire GOP, you're not going to vote. No voting. Yeah, because you're not going to vote because I'm not president unless I'm made president. There is no such thing as a government of the United States. There's no need to go vote because it's all a lie. Yeah, that's his delusion. And there's not anybody who's going to not vote because that guy says not to vote. Nobody's really that stupid. And that will twist this process of people being able to follow him any further. Yeah? Because he's going to say more and more shitty-ass crazy things. And more truth things are going to come up. Truth, lie. That's the only thing that's going on. The only thing that's going on. Truth, lie. And then the law judges. Justice. Yeah? And this is a process of justice. And we would not have this justice if we didn't go through this process. Yeah? So we need to watch it play out. Yeah? This is a very, very tricky time. We in our own presidency have never put a president in prison. Never. But it has happened in almost all other countries. Yeah? France, Italy, Spain. These are modern countries. Yeah? And their presidents, because they did crimes against the people, they were corrupt, they were ripped off, and they were fraud in their voting practices, yeah, and they were caught, and they were put in prison. Well, guess what? we are going to become one of those countries that stands up for justice, even if it's our president. Because in this 2-6 country that we are, we're highly religious, ordained, governed people by God. Yeah? And if we're moved into this process where we're moved by not allowing this justice to take place, what was the reason for the 10 Commandments? Why bother with it? Why bother telling Adam and Eve, don't eat that apple? Like there's no law. Yeah? Justice comes every single time when you break that law. Every time. Shows it all throughout the Bible. It shows it all throughout our history. Yeah? So this is what's happening. This is what's going to come down. We're going to witness this guy go to prison. And we're going to witness enormous numbers of people following him going down the same way. Yeah? You know, whether it be that lady senator or the other guy, all these people, all want to be like Trump. They're corrupt. They have no heart. They lie. They carry guns. They're hostile. They can even be in wheelchairs and want to kill people. And they're in the government. Well, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. For us to be what we are, which is the 2-6, we have to eliminate the evil inside the government. You have to eliminate. You must raise yourself up through discernment and discrimination. You can't do that without pulling Trump out and run through justice and get higher-minded people who are third-degree initiates right now, who's running this government, who is saying this guy is evil. Yeah, they're third-degree initiates, and they're on their way to higher initiations. Yeah, so everything we are is the process of initiations, all the way into our government, our highest initiates. Yeah, you need to think of this differently, rather than, asshole government, 1986 Orwell kind of bullshit, that we're all under the Big Brother kind of scenario. The government's out after us. It's all a lie, a conspiracy. We need reverence in a holy governing reality of God's creation. Yeah? This is God's creation, this building, this government. Changing any other government in the world that's put in evil is dependent upon this government. It's this one government that radiates out into the world the hierarchy. Not Tibet. It's America now. Yeah? And our government is on a relationship of attaining a 3rd, 4th, and 5th degree initiation. Incarnated presidents who are masters of wisdom within the next 15, 20, 30 years. Can you imagine that? Loving, kind, youthful, with a really nice wife, that doesn't look like a snake, but does things, cares about people, communicates with people, comes from America. The real thing. But when we got everything going wrong, we're going to attract all wrong things right there and try and put a square peg into a hole. And it will not fit. And that's what happened with those two people and their family. They did not fit. They never fit. They were not supposed to be there. They were not elected to be there. They were put in place where they shouldn't have been. Yeah. And we're going to fix it. Because we, the people, are the government of the United States. And we're all in a hierarchy. And the highest ones are there for us, all the way down to the bottom. So we have to think really well. We have to think right about what goes on. That it's a holy thing. It's not a material thing. It's not like all police officers are saints. They are saints. They just don't know it. They have all it takes to be a saint, a first-degree initiate. They have all it takes to be a saint. To strap on the gun, to have all that stuff. To carry a gun takes a heart. That's how we stopped lawlessness during the early stages of America, by strapping on a gun and being a faster being faster, being able to shoot the gun out of the guy's hand rather than in his head. Let them live, you know? Teach them a lesson. Shoot all their guns out of their hands. You're real good, yeah? Or you're dead, yeah? Yeah, you can take it one way or the other, but almost all the way through the process, we study it, we'll find, hey, these guys were good shots who aimed well and got people in jail and stopped lawlessness. Not by creating more lawlessness, thinking that they're the law and you know, they can get away with anything. As a lawman, you can't. You can be hung too. Yeah? And if you don't have that consciousness in you, then your town sucks. Yeah? And you suck. And the government sucks. And everybody else in it sucks. And they all can be taken for a ride. Yeah? Because someone's got to stand up for the law. And to do that, you have to learn how to protect everybody and not kill anybody. Not kill anybody. Yeah? But keep people from being killed. Capture them in time. Throw them in jail. Stop them. Justice. Justice. Yeah? Turning of the wheel of dharma is justice served. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. So, let's pray. We're going to do the great invocation today for meditation. Okay, repeat after me. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad. To guide me into the right activity in the plan. To clarify and stimulate my mind. To transform and transmute my feelings and emotions. To energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body. So there is a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. Through this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One. All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Let the forces of light bring illumination to mankind. Let the spirit of peace be spread abroad. May humanity of goodwill everywhere meet in a spirit of cooperation. May forgiveness on the part of all mankind be the keynote at this time. Let power attend the efforts of the great ones. So let it be, and help us do our part. angels of heaven. Let the lords of liberation issue forth. Let them bring succor to the sons of mankind. Let the rider from the secret place come forth, and come say, "Come forth, O Mighty One." Let the souls of mankind awaken to the light, and may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth. The end of the woe has come. Come forth, O Mighty One. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, O Mighty One. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The active aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, O Mighty One, and blend these three. Construct a great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end.
Take a deep breath.
From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of mankind. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of mankind. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of mankind, let the plan of love and light work out. And may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. The sons of men are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not to hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form, and let life and all events, and bring forth forth to light the love which underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavage be gone. Let love prevail. Let all mankind love.
Okay, just relax. Okay, open your eyes. This is an esoteric psychology book. It's pretty helpful, but it's incorrect. So I don't recommend it, but I read out of it because it has good sources, so I can come up with some nice stuff. So what I'm going to look at here is the fact that during the incarnation of Jesus, my ray package was a 2-soul and a 6 personality with a 1 monad. I always have a 1 monad, yeah? And because that's who I am, yeah? And so my incarnation primarily has a 2nd ray in it, somewhere, yeah? Either in personality or in soul. And in that incarnation, I had a 2nd ray soul and a 6th ray personality. So that's a big thing. If you imagine, to come, incarnate, live out, by the time I'm 33, fulfill a 5th degree level of initiation through resurrection, and ascension, all of that as a process within humanity. Humanity received, because I was born in the incarnation of a human being, then I raise humanity up at whatever level of initiation I take. So it brings humanity to an initiation of possibility. This is how far we all can go. So I facilitated 5 initiations during that life and up to the point of my resurrection. And I attained the 7th initiation before I left my body. So I became the Planetary Logos as Jesus. And everybody thinks, die on the cross, go into the grave, ascend, go away. That's the story of Jesus, but it's not true. I died on a cross, I ascended, but I didn't go away. And I continued living in a resurrected body, and lived that body for over 100 years. So out of that, many, many, many initiations came, and I gave all the teachings of Buddha to scholars in Srinagar, and and really brought about everything as a change into humanity for all the initiations, all 7 initiations. So that meant all the up-and-coming tukus that will incarnate throughout the thousands of years of time it takes for me to heal this whole world and create initiates. But I had to be the first initiate to attain the highest initiation, which made me Alpha Omega, and it created the embodiment, which became what's known as Buddhism or Christianity. A consciousness that comes from the teacher. So I did that in a 2-6. So 2-6 is a very favorable ray package. Having to go through as much as I did, having to be not complimented by religion until I was awake. So religion literally was my downfall. It attacked me. It wanted to kill me. They wanted to keep me away from priests. They didn't want me to go into the temple. They wanted me to not be the Messiah. All these things, it's like crazy. And it's mainly because I had a 2-6 package with. Okay. All right, so I'm back. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that the process of a 2-6, Jesus the Christ, we all know about Jesus Christ. And it's good if you're going to study esoteric reality, it'd be nice to know what was his ray package. And that influence of that ray package being the savior of the earth, creating a new government, a new way of relating to religion, a new way of throwing government out and starting over again. Because it was the government that killed him. It wasn't religion that killed him, it was the government. And he was the government. He died because he was the king of Dharma. He was the king of kings. And there can't be any other kings in this false government here on this earth. So as a 2-6, he incarnates as the king. No question about it. He is the king of heaven. 2-6, king of heaven. So he lives out his life, does what he does, but that implants into the nation's ray package because he becomes a planetary logos. He attains these chakras. They go out into the nation. The nations start getting a soul, and he embodies the whole planet by him attaining what he attained as Jesus Christ in the embodiment of 2-6, which means 2-6 would be the central nation of all nations, same as Christ. The embodiment of the 2-6. And the center nation, the only one with the 2-6, is the United States. So the United States has Jesus Christ, ray package. Why would I want to be incarnated here? I'm going home to my previous life. May not seem like it. It's America, was not found at that time, or was it? Or did I have omnipresent abilities and I was able to travel to America, live in America and other places simultaneously, and be able to impress every nation into the Dharma plan, the outwork, the outcoming of a plan, which became manifest as discoveries, new technologies, discoveries, travel, all these things that seem to be, how did we ever get here? Oh no, there's monsters out there. We can't go any further. All the fears were all wiped away through the element of Christ's impression of governing everybody's direction, their dharma, their destiny, how they traveled, where they traveled, why they traveled, what was their purpose behind what they did. Why did they go to America? Why did all you people go to America? Every single bit of that is done through the life of Christ that was done 2,000 years ago, set everybody in motion. You can do the same study in Buddhism. You can go to the study of Buddha where he sat, and he received thousands of people that came to him, and many of those people, many of them, are future incarnations that would be in the life of future incarnations of Buddha. And they would be the governing body of the planet. They would rule the planet. And that was blessings, Padmasambhava, all these different beings that would come into future incarnations, all came across that relationship. Same thing happened to Jesus. He met with all the scholars and everything of Buddhism, and he met with everybody through Judaism. He met with everybody in Hinduism. He met with everybody in Nepal. He went to everywhere, met with everyone. Yeah? And that's his future. All these people, all these places, all these things are things that he touched, connected to his Dharma, and he's the Dharma king. Yeah? So that changed everybody's life in the future. And they didn't become what you think is a follower of Jesus Christ. They become the disciple of Jesus Christ by him accepting them as disciples during the time of Jesus Christ. Yeah. Isn't that a trip? Yeah. And that's why America is what it is. That's why the governing body took place the way it is. That's why Washington incarnated here the way he did. That's why we got Abraham Lincoln. And the story of his life, how he was born, is an absolute miracle. Yeah? He shouldn't be alive. He was stillborn. Yeah? He was turned around backwards. He didn't have a midwife. He didn't have a doctor. Yeah? And out of nowhere, a midwife comes knocking on the door saying some doctor sent her. Yeah? And she performs the process to get the baby to come out safely. And he said, how can we ever repay you? And he says, well, call him Lincoln. Yeah? Abraham. Call him Abraham. Yeah? And even named Abraham. Yeah? And when the doctor came, they said, well, he's already born. The midwife is here. Thanks for sending her. So what midwife? We don't have a midwife. Yeah? We don't have any midwives around here. The last one we had was maybe 10, 15 years ago, and she died. Yeah? So that's not possible. Yeah? So it's a big miracle as to how that took manifestation, because he's a high initiate. High initiates come manifested under the anointment of God. It's miraculous, the whole process. Yeah. So remember this. Yeah. This continent is the same repackage as Jesus Christ, and that's why this place is. There's a process in the coming of Christ. It's the new world. Yeah. This place is the new world. Yeah. That's manifested by Christ. A world that was not found, a world that was found by his opening the mind of consciousness beyond fear and hate and into overshadowing and governing the world of finding discovery and leading us to where we're at. That's destiny. That's dharma. That's Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Cool, huh? Yeah, I read that. All right, enjoy.